Hi, friends.
Take 2.
Uh-huh.
Spooky Hawaii.
Yep. What you
Yeah.
guys missed on the first recording that didn't, it just recorded as an hour of silence.
It was over an hour of silence. Because I found a way that I could hear the song again. Okay? And I said, sick, tight, cool. What I didn't realize was that y'all wouldn't be able to hear anything.
And let me just also point out that
she did say, should we check it? And I said, no, let's just roll with it.
No, because she had already told the story, and you guys would have gotten my genuine response to said story. But
yeah,
you want to tell
go ahead
a long
and
story
tell you.
short?
I'll just go ahead and tell it. So this morning I woke up, and Daniel was already awake next to me. I cracked one eye open. I look at him and I said, "I'm mad at you." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you was messing around in my dream." He said, "With who?" And I said, "Chelsea." And he said, "Ew, why?"
And my response was very similar.
And he goes, "You're mad at me?" And I was like, "I'm mad at you." And he's like, "Did you walk in on us?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I never saw anything happen. You just were you were bragging about it." And he was like, "Are you sure we weren't just messing with you?" And I was like, "I don't know. All I know is it was some sort of experiment." And he goes, "What kind of experiment?" I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "No, thank you." I said, "That's what she's going to say." I said,
Yep.
She'll be like, "Ew, no."
Absolutely.
And then he goes, "Have you ever had a dream like that before?" And I said, "I have not, but I don't appreciate it. So I'm mad at you."
And then I said,
And then
I had a dream that me and TJ got divorced, and I woke up pissed off at him the next day.
but you never told him about it.
No, I
See me,
absolutely
I
never
cracked
told
one
him.
eye open and I said, "I'm pissed at you." So
She chose violence. Today.
I did. And then he said I was ruining the mood because I couldn't stop farting.
That was not included in the
It
last
wasn't.
episode.
It wasn't. So this is bonus content because you can actually hear it. Because I could not stop tooting. I was practically flying around the room. Just. And he was like, you're about ruining the mood. And I said, am I though? Did I though? No.
No. So now you guys know.
Now you know. I almost feel like this retelling was better. Oh, and on top of that, I have sulfur burps. So it's just a really
This episode's a tell-all.
It's just an all-around bad time to be near me.
And here I sit.
And here you sit.
In
for the long haul.
We quote unquote recorded.
You got your piggies out?
I do. Piggies out. We quote unquote recorded that episode, realized that it didn't record our voices, and then I said, "I'm hungry. We're taking a break and we're going to Waffle House."
Well, I fixed the mics and then made sure they worked, and then we went to Waffle House.
Yeah. So we're both full.
Yeah.
And
Probably going to start yawning more.
it was an interesting experience at the Waffle House. Do we want to tell it?
Sure.
So we're sitting there. We haven't been there.
Yeah, we hadn't been there very long.
Like 2 minutes. These people walk in. This lady goes, we just hear this lady's voice behind us. "Hey, do y'all care if I have my dogs in here?" And I'm like, I'm not the type of person who's going to say no. She's like, "It's just 2 12-week-old miniature dachshunds." And I'm like, "No, it's fine." They were in a small carrier together.
Yeah, they were in a carrier.
And I'm like, "No, that's fine." One of them was a support dog or whatever.
Yeah.
What are they called?
A service dog.
Service dog. I don't know what.
Meanwhile,
It's not my job to know what. It's not my business.
Yeah, I don't.
They were good. We only heard them one time.
Yeah, but my nose ran and I sneezed the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
So
almost as soon as she sat down with these dogs, my nose started pouring. I had to start getting my reserve napkins out of my purse.
So then I'm like, "Oh, I have a miniature wiener," and we talked about it for a second, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Wander, I like y'all shirts. Wander's weird. That's cute." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's our podcast. We have a podcast, And she's like, "Well, what's it about? Just weird stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much." And so we kind of chit chatted about it. I turned around, ate my dinner, went on about it, and then as we were leaving, I was like, I should have asked her, because she kept saying, I got to remember that. And I should have asked her if she had Spotify. So I go back and I'm like, do you have Spotify? And she's like, I don't even know what that is. So I'm telling her what Spotify is. She brings out her phone and I had to show her how to download it. So we get her in Spotify, and if you're not a Spotify user, you don't know, but like Spotify asks you to select like 3 artists that you listen to before it'll let you do anything.
Yeah.
And so it pops that up, and I was like, now you just select 3 artists that you like, that you listen to. And she's like, well, all I listen to is Christian music. And I cut my eyes over at Brittany like, ooh. And so we got her to our page. She scanned my tattoo on my arm.
Yep.
And she followed us.
Yep.
So thanks for that follow, even though I doubt that you're going to make it this far in the podcast, because you're going to listen to the first couple episodes and you're going to say, no, thank you.
These are heathens.
But we appreciate your follow. Anyway, we didn't, when we quote unquote recorded this before, we didn't tell about what's going on in our lives like we normally do.
No, I really don't have a lot.
Me neither. School's out.
I'm looking for somebody to go to Trixie Mattel with me if anybody's interested. Well, by the time you hear this. No, when you hear this, I won't have gone yet. So.
You'll have a couple days before.
Yeah, there'll be a couple. It's on Saturday the 8th. As long as you're not a murderer, I promise I won't murder you. If you want to go.
Reach out to us.
If
on the
solid,
email.
If something called a solid pink disco sounds like your thing, you can go with me. Daniel said he would go, but I can just imagine him in there in his khaki cargo shorts and his pink bedtime shirt that he accidentally wore out in public the other day. And then we're like on the way home and he goes, did I just wear my bedtime shirt all day? And I was like, yeah, I guess you did. I didn't even notice. He said he would go, but he said it just really doesn't sound like his vibe.
It really doesn't.
No.
And I would go, but
It's okay.
I can't.
If I have to go by myself, that's fine.
You do things by yourself way more than I do.
Yeah, but I've never done. I mean, this would be a good opportunity since I'm going to Green Day by myself.
Right.
It would be a good.
But it just sucks that you bought 2 tickets and you're only using 1.
Whatever. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, I got nothing going on. School's out. Pulled my kids out of daycare. Their last week is this coming week. So the next time that we record, you guys will hear probably a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Stressed, happy to be out of the house version of me, because it's, I'm going to have somebody with me 24/7 for the next couple of months. But I just was not feeling paying $800 a month for daycare during the summer.
Right.
And then even during the school year when the kids only go for, at most 2.5 hours a day.
I don't blame you.
It's $500 a month for them to literally get there long enough to warm a spot on the floor.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So, I work from home. It's fun.
Imagine how much more money you're going to have.
I know, that's what I was thinking. Like, we might be able to afford to, do vacations and stuff. We were talking about, TJ and I were going to go on a trip to Maine for our anniversary this year, but it's not working out financially that way. But with this, we had talked about taking the kids to St. Louis for a weekend to go to the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
TJ just went to the zoo
this
like
past
St.
week.
Louis. I've never been. And so TJ had to go to St. Louis this past week for work, and he got there a little early, so he went through the zoo by himself.
I love an IKEA.
I've never been to an IKEA.
Oh, I love an IKEA. Their food's good too.
But he said the zoo was amazing. It's a free zoo. You got to pay like $20 to park, but the zoo itself is free, except for like all the extra exhibits and stuff that they have. But I mean, our zoo's the same way.
Yeah.
I don't pay for that though, because I got a year's membership for Christmas, like the last 2 or 3 years. And so we talked about doing that. And then I was also told that there's this place called like the City Park or something. And it's like a 10-story high, like playground type deal.
Oh.
And like it's a whole day.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a good thing to do on like a rainy day because it's inside. So we were talking about doing that. I think it'd be a cool little weekend getaway for us and the kids.
Yeah.
To leave on like Thursday night, Friday morning, come home on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
I got the farts.
You can go to is St. Louis the one with the arch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, TJ just...
I heard that part.
TJ took a selfie under it and sent it to me the other day.
Nice.
He was amazed that it's welded together. Like now that he's in the know about like welding and things. He like notices
I still
the
think
welding.
I'd be good at welding.
With your OCD, probably.
Yeah. I should give it a try.
Maybe.
Should try it.
Maybe you'd find it therapeutic. Welders make damn good money too.
Yeah.
But then what is Daniel going to do when you up and quit? Because you're making like 100 times more than what you're making currently.
I would probably just do it for fun.
Girl, when you can make, I'm talking bank.
Well, I could make sculptures and stuff.
Yeah, but don't nobody buy that.
Hey, you'd be shocked. You would be shocked. I know a guy that has a YouTube channel that's pretty much YouTube, and his metal sculptures and stuff that he does is his income.
I mean, there's a ton of...
He's in Canada too, so everything costs like 3 times more.
Oh, well, I mean, you do you, boo. But they make bank. Make bank. All right, anyway.
Anyhow.
So now we've spilled. Let's get into spooky Hawaii.
Yep, and we will be starting at the downtown Honolulu post office. It was originally just called the Federal Building, and today it is known as the King David Kalakaua Building, but locals just call it the downtown post office. Benedict Westcamper, who was the assistant superintendent of mail, was often described as quite cranky, particularly when it came to the subject of supplies. He was said to guard the paper and pencils as though it was the gold in Fort Knox. His boss, though, Postmaster D.H. McAdams, said that his work record at the post office in El Centro, California, was excellent, and his personal recommendation led to Westcamper being transferred to the Honolulu post office in 1921. Westcamper was originally from Minnesota and moved out west after he got out of the military and had been employed for 11 years with the Postal Service prior to his move to Hawaii. He was described as a diligent employee who worked his way up from registry officer to superintendent of mail in only a few years. He was a member of the Elks Club and lived at the Elks House in Honolulu, where he was said to be a quiet man. In August of 1924, he volunteered to be an amateur sailor on a trip to the Palmyra Islands on a sampan-style boat named the Palmyra. Westy, as he referred to himself while on this little sailboat, or this little journey, was in charge of keeping the ship's log. On August 19th, the boat set sail, and almost immediately the entire crew was struck with seasickness. Just a few days into the trip, the boat hit a squall, and the wind caused a little bit of damage, which included tearing the radio wiring that was just installed for this trip off of the boat. After that incident, a different storm hit the boat, and part of the deck railing went overboard, which caused the entire boat to lean to one side. The sea was choppy, and the men had to shift barrels of gas to correct the lean. It got to the point that there was a bottle that contained the names of the entire crew that was thrown overboard just in case. It took about a week for the crew to reach Fanning Island, and after 4 days, they moved on to the Palmyras. The crew didn't find any Spanish treasure, but they did find thousands of birds, massive coconut crabs, good water, and schools of mullet. It seemed as though this trip was a highlight of Westy's otherwise quiet life. But just after the trip, there was a months-long investigation into Westcamper for violating postal code, and on January 29th, 1925, he was arrested and subsequently suspended from work on the charge of sending banned materials through the mail. He was now, I've eaten, I'm sleepy. He was specifically charged with violating Section 470 of the Postal Code, which read as follows: every obscene, lewd, or lascivious, and every filthy book, pamphlet, etc., and other publications of an indecent character, and every article or thing designed for preventing contraception or conception or producing abortion or for any indecent, immoral use is punishable by a fine of not more than $5,000 or imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or both. This complaint was filed by the post office inspector, and Westcamper was charged and admitted to sending an obscene letter through the mail to a woman in San Francisco. However, the post office and the authorities declined to say what the letter's contents were that made it so obscene. His bail was set at $1,500, which he was able to post, and he was released to await his trial. He was last seen at the federal building around 2:30 p.m. that day and remarked to his postmaster, "I guess you were disappointed in me, Mac." According to McAdam, Westcamper was obviously suffering and felt sickened and humiliated as he disappeared from the post office. It was said that Westcamper stopped briefly outside of the building and then made his way to the corner of Richards and King Streets and boarded a Waikiki car. Then he went to his room at the Elks Club, where he remained for approximately 1 hour. At 3 p.m., the police received a mysterious phone call from a woman who said, "Watch Westcamper, he said he's going to shoot himself." Without a word to anyone, he walked out of the Elks Club and walked toward Diamond Head. Story goes that Westcamper only stopped once in front of a Japanese store on 12th Avenue to play with some little children, and then he set off again. He greeted a schoolgirl that he knew and asked her if she knew where Cook Avenue was, and then he continued walking and passed through the Charles Martin Dairy. One of the employees of the dairy said that he was sitting outside of a barn resting and watched a tall, gaunt man walk leisurely up the mountainside, and then the man disappeared in a gulch. The employee said that he wondered who the man was, what he wanted, and where he was going, but the answer came in the sound of a pistol shot. Moments later, the dairyman found Westcamper on his back with a revolver in his hand and a bullet wound right through his heart. The postmaster, McAdam, was quoted as saying, "He was a very efficient postal man and one of the best we have ever had here. He was a hard worker and intensely interested in his work, and accomplished real results in any task he tackled. The letter, which ultimately led to his suicide, was a distinct surprise to me. It was hard to believe he would do such a thing. It was not like him. Perhaps it was a strain from work. It was strain from work that was responsible, but I at least feel confident that something unusual prompted it. Probably the first time in his life that it happened, and it might have been the last if nothing had come of the letter." Of the effects that Westcamper left behind, it included several brief newspaper clippings of poems that dealt with life. There were no notes or any other messages to be found. He was a quiet, hard-working man who had been so dedicated to his job that when he disappointed his boss, he was so humiliated and forlorn that he felt he only had one way out of it. His remaining family on the mainland felt that he should be buried at Oahu Cemetery under the auspices of the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. But isn't the post office supposed to be haunted? Well, hardly a month had gone by since Westcamper had committed suicide when postal laborer Adam Wong, along with the foreman of the carriers, was in the basement of the federal building getting some supplies. With the supplies in hand, Wong began to step from the supply room into the corridor when he looked up and saw a tall, brooding Westcamper approaching them. He did not speak or raise his eye, but he came toward the door. Wong called out, Poonie, look, here's West Camper. Poonie let out a shriek asking where he was. Wong would tell the newspapers you could see Poonie's hair go right up. As he pointed out to Poonie the figure, it disappeared, just like smoke, like a little blue cigarette smoke. There was a rampant belief throughout the federal building that West Camper was back and keeping a watchful eye over the supplies to be sure that no one was wasting them. Wong said that he had seen ghosts before and wasn't afraid. I liked West Camper and he liked me. Yes, I would like to see him again. I am sorry that he can find no rest. And even today, postal workers say that the building continues to be haunted by the ghost of West Camper. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, I just had a thought, and I may have said this before, but I don't know. So, you've got this red lamp in this window?
Yeah.
Isn't it like a thing, like in the past, if there was a red light in the window, that meant that there was a prostitute?
Oh, probably.
I mean, isn't that the
I think
premise
that's
of
where
Roxanne?
Well, I was gonna say I think that's where the like red light district come from.
You don't have to wear that
But-
dress tonight.
I don't know.
Do you know how often I get that
These
song
blinds
stuck in my
are
head?
seldom ever open, but the sun was out and I was cleaning, so
I mean, you
because
still
I don't
can
want
see
I
that
didn't want
through
you to
the
see my
window.
house dirty.
I can't stand it. I don't care. You've been to my house when it's like
We mentioned this
freaking
earlier when we
bomb goes
recorded
off.
the first time.
yeah.
Yeah, but you have kids. I
It don't
don't
matter.
care.
You have cats.
I do, and they are messy. I had to sweep up all the kitty litter
Do you
because
think I
they track it
care?
everywhere. I almost said it.
Do you think I care what your house look like? I do
Well,
not.
I did, so I cleaned it. But like I said, the worst you've ever seen my house was when I kicked my ex-husband out and there was glass and blood everywhere.
Facts.
And then I mentioned that those picture frames are cursed.
Yeah.
The ones that survived anyway, because he punched out most of them. Most of all the
That's
ones
all right. You've
that
more
had our
than-
wedding photos in them.
You've more than replaced them.
Oh, for sure. And I'm on I constantly replace picture frames. Like if I have old boring ones, like a
Yeah.
plain black frame, ugh. If I come
One,
across,
2.
yeah, but this one, what else am I going to put that in? If I find a better
3.
one, I like this one though. I think this very much suits Adita Von Teese.
Yeah. She's got plain black picture
I don't have
frames.
a lot though, but I'm slowly replacing them. Is what I'm saying with
I hear
funky
you.
ones because I love one of my favorite things to do is go to the Goodwill and find funky picture frames.
Won't you take me to
Funky Town. Okay.
Can't monetize this episode.
Can't never could do nothing. My ankle itches. Hold on.
I like how we have to pause for you to scratch your ankle.
Yeah,
Can you walk and chew gum at the same time?
probably. I don't know.
When's the last time you chewed gum?
I don't chew gum. It makes my jaw hurt. And it makes my TMJ act up. Kasha House of Kaimuki. In ancient Japan, the translation of Kasha is fire cart, and it is a creature that was said to frequent populated areas where its dietary sustenance consisted of fresh human corpses. According to legend, these creatures were a type of Bakaneko, which are supernatural entities that look like a cat. Which this time when we said that, the cat isn't here. They would live among humans under the guise of being a common house cat or stray. I bet George is one. I bet
all of your
George is
cats are
one.
all of them.
George is a menace. He's so sweet. He's so sweet. But
George
he's-
for the pod family, because they don't know.
He's
George
a new
is
kitty,
one.
and we're pretty sure he's Toby's boy because he looks
He
quite
showed
similar.
up outside.
Yeah,
he's not
he's-
an inside cat.
No, he's not an inside cat, but he is a menace. So he's chasing Miss Daisy off. He's tried to chase Toby. He tries to pick fights with Toby, and we're like, boy, you don't want to do that because Toby is an old, mean street cat, and he will
Toby
whoop you.
is a menace also.
Toby is also a menace, but Toby didn't break my bird bath out front, but trying to catch a bird. because that's what George probably did. I don't have evidence of it, but I'm blaming him because he has been sitting beside of it. Because
innocent, but proven guilty until proven guilty.
He's guilty until proven innocent. Because he was sitting by the bird bath. We got home. I said, "Did you break that?" And he just kind of looked at me. And then we're going in the house, and he runs around the back of the house because he knows he's going to get fed. So he goes to run. He's sitting there, and a bird is sitting too close to him. He starts chasing the bird. And I was like, that's exactly how that happened. That's exactly how the bird bath got broke.
I mean, dude gotta eat.
We were going to feed him.
Okay. He don't know.
He's a skinny mini.
He's a street cat. He don't know.
He also...
It's hard out there on the streets. You don't know where your next meal coming from.
Well, he's been sleeping in the chicken coop that we used to have a tahine in. He sleeps in there. Which that's fine. Sleep in there.
Are you going to get any more chickens?
Probably not. I don't know.
Thank God.
And then...
I'd hate to have to come over here and go, "Wah!" again.
Well, and then... Well, if we got chickens, they would be, like, in their own little fenced-in spot. Hi, little cat.
Like they ain't gonna get out?
No, we would put, like, a cover over the top or something. This way they could have their run and not get out and get hit by cars like half of the people's chickens around here. But then...
I will not swerve for a chicken.
He sleeps on top of my truck. He gets up there and, like, sits.
Yeah.
He's a menace. He pees on the door and then makes the whole house smell like cat pee. And I'm like, you got to get out of here.
What are you doing, little
I
cat?
say he pees on it, but he'll see Willow or Amara because they like to be around the door when I go out there to feed him. And then he gives it a little pss, pss. Just a little pss, pss.
He's just letting them know his beef's strong.
I guess so.
He trying to get in there.
So anyway, George is a Bakaneko. The Kasha are bipedal, which means they walk on two legs, and are larger than most people and are accompanied by the flames from hell, and they show themselves on rainy or stormy evenings. George was outside when we got back. It is really only during funerals that their truest forms are revealed, and because of this, they are known to snatch corpses and take them away to hell for punishment.
And at this point, when we recorded earlier, I said, can you imagine a funeral, being at a funeral, and that body just rise on up?
Yeah.
And be like, deuces, I'm out of here.
As the Kasha will animate a corpse like a puppet, or they will simply eat it for dinner.
I did it too early, my bad.
And more often than not, it is the latter. It is the latter. They'll just eat it.
Got ahead of myself.
It's okay. An article appeared in the Honolulu Star Bulletin on August 13th, 1942 that described an incident that was blamed on the evil doings of Kahuna. At 1:25 a.m., Police Sergeant Mosley Cummins and patrolman Robert Anseth answered a call and found a 10-year-old Hawaiian boy and his sisters, who were 18 and 20, on their living room sofa shrieking in fear. The mother, who was also shrieking, was waving tea leaves and sprinkling Hawaiian salt to ward off spirits. She stated that at 10 p.m. her son, the 10-year-old, smelled a ghost in their Kaimuki home, and apparently the spirits were angry that they were found out and began to attack the boy and his two sisters by attempting to strangle them. My husband who left me is to blame, the mother said. The struggle lasted for about an hour and a half, and the police yielded the home to a kahuna, which is someone who is important and in charge, and they took the woman to her sister's home for safety at around 3 a.m. The woman's efforts of using tea leaf, water, and salt to ward off the spirit were pointless. The entire incident scared one of the officers, and the woman pointed out, look, you're covered in goose pimples. On Halloween in 1972, there was an editorial about local ghosts that described a call to HPD regarding a haunted house. It is unknown if it was the same house or not, though. The urgent call to police was made by 3 young women who were sharing a home in a neighborhood that was considered to be haunted. The girls were hearing strange noises in the house as though someone was moving around and talking. One of the women said that she felt some unusual physical sensations as though someone was resting their hand on her arm. As a result, officers were sent to follow the women to Papakolea, where one of them was living. The women got into their car, and the officer got into his, and they drove down Wailea Avenue. Suddenly, the woman driving pulled into the Oasis Cafe parking lot, which is now just a public storage facility. The report that was filed by the officer later said that the woman who was sitting in the middle of the front seat began to fight off an unseen force that was strangling her. The officer left his car and reached into the woman's car. Oh no, thank you. To assist, but said that big calloused hands grabbed him, but he could not see the hands. The unseen force twisted his arm, and he ran back to his car to radio for backup. The officer put the hysterical girl into his car and urged her friends to follow him, but his car would not start after that. As soon as he put the girl back into her own car, the officer who had arrived as backup started his car right on up. The 2 cars went about 5 yards when the door of the girl's car flew open and the same girl fell out onto the road. She was clawing at her throat as if she was being choked. Both officers attempted to pull her hands away, but they were not strong enough. The sergeant, who was Hawaiian, ran into the cafe for some water and Hawaiian salt and sprayed everyone down, and almost immediately all was calm. All was right with the world.
Power of salt, bro.
I gotta wet my whistle.
That saying kind of freaks me out a little. It's kind of gross.
Why?
I don't know. It's like the word moist.
Moist. Morgan's Corner is my next one. On Wednesday, March 10th, 1948.
Get it together!
I'm trying.
You need caffeine.
No, it'll make me even more tired. March 10th, 1948, at around 11:30 a.m., 2 prisoners escaped from the Chinese school on Smith Street where they were on a work line. The escapees were James Majors, 21, and John Palakico, 19. Both were serving sentences for second-degree burglary. When they escaped, they paid a bus fare of 50 cents and rode to Nuuanu Valley. The pair hid in the hills for the night, and the next morning they began to make their way down to the road to look for food. At one place, they were chased by a dog. I'll never get my life together. But at another place, they were able to get a coconut. They both looked around the Midkiff estate and stole 2 raincoats and a bottle of citronella, and then returned to the hills. But before it became dark, they ventured out once more for food. They approached the Wilder estate, and at first glance, it appeared to be empty. They tried to open the windows, but failing to open any, the men crept around to the roadside of the house and saw Mrs. Wilder about to begin her evening meal. The men returned to the windows and was able to successfully open one in a small dressing room. The room was locked, so Majors had to crawl through the 14 by 18-inch air vent to the next room. He unlocked the door and let Palakico into the bedroom, and they began to search it. Mrs. Wilder heard the noise, left the kitchen, and opened the bedroom door. Turned on the lights and asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" Palikiko grabbed her by both of her arms and allegedly told her that they didn't want to hurt her, that they were just looking for food. Mrs. Wilder was able to get free and rushed to the front door, calling out in hopes of frightening the intruders. She had managed to open the door to the lanai when Palikiko grabbed her again. They scuffled, but the 68-year-old woman was easily overpowered, and Majors pulled her down to the ground and hit her in the eye. While she was stunned, they bound and blindfolded her with towels. She was unconscious and they carried her to the bedroom. When she began to come to, she struggled some more and was hit again by both men this time. Palikiko punched her twice on the chin and Majors slugged her in the jaw. She lost consciousness again and was then gagged with the towel that she had been blindfolded with. The men made their way to the kitchen and left the same way they had entered. They were in the house for only about 45 minutes. The pair followed the winding road and made sure to keep close to the thick underbrush. They rested underneath a bridge on Chemo Road, and ate some of the food and then hid so they could rest. Later that night, they returned to Honolulu and the vicinity of the Chinese language school on Kapina Lane, which is where they had escaped from. They remained there until Friday, March 12th, when they attempted to steal a car, but were apprehended by the owner, who then called the police. While waiting for the police to arrive, Majors asked for a cigarette, and when given one, he struck his captor in the mouth and fled. Palikiko, though, was not fast enough and was caught quickly and held. He was arrested on Friday night at 10:30 p.m. and was returned to Oahu prison and placed in solitary confinement. Please quit licking my fingers. Mrs. Wilder...
It's not me.
No,
it's not me.
It's little cat. Mrs. Wilder's body had not yet been discovered in her home. Majors fled up Palolo Valley and hid in the hills overnight, and then made his way down to Kaneohe by hitching a ride. He stole a meat truck and drove it to Waipahu and abandoned it. Here, he made friends with an elderly man and was able to pass himself off as his grandson for 4 days. Then on Tuesday morning, the body of Teresa Adele Wilder, known as Teddy, was found by her housemaid, Mia Matayashi, and her gardener, Isabello Escalante. The pair had shown up early and had grown concerned when she didn't answer the door, even though she had requested that her gardener come 2 days early. The house was locked, and there was still newspapers from the previous week laying around the grounds. They waited for some time, and then Escalante crawled through a window, and then he let Matayashi in through the front door. They saw Mrs. Wilder on her bed, but thought she was sleeping at first. But when they discovered the gag around her throat, they called her physician, Dr. Morlock, who said that Mrs. Wilder appeared to have been dead since the previous Thursday, and he called the police. The official cause of death was suffocation. Her jaw was broken, and the gag impeded her breathing further. When she was found, she had been deceased for 5 days, but the police did have some leads. They had the description of a car that was parked along Polly Road near the Wilder estate from Thursday night until Friday morning. There was a man that was said to have been hitchhiking along Polly Road Thursday night and was picked up in the vicinity of the Wilder estate. He was described as being generally disheveled and that his shirt was torn. There were also some reports of 2 men being seen on Thursday evening around 5:45 and 6 p.m. on the Wilder estate. The police chief, William Hupe, said said every policeman from foot patrolman on is vitally interested in supplying any bit of evidence which might lead to the identity of this criminal. The Board of Supervisors offered a $500 reward for any information that led to the capture of the perpetrator, and the Honolulu Chamber of Commerce offered a $1,500 reward. Police set up roadblocks and questioned any motorists who drove through Pali Road regularly as to whether or not they had seen any suspicious activity, and 4 prison escapees were being sought in connection to this case. On Friday, March 19th, 2 of the leads were eliminated. The hitchhiker had reported himself to the police station and given a statement that cleared him of suspicion. The other lead with the green sedan that had been parked near the Wilder home was also withdrawn. The green car was the closest that someone had come to discovering Mrs. Wilder on the same night that she was murdered. The owner of the vehicle was having some motor trouble and had parked in the driveway of the Wilder estate. The 2 women in the car had insisted on going to ask to use the phone, but they were talked out of it by one of the men who said he would hitchhike to town and borrow a car from a friend. The 2 women and the other man sat in the car for about 2 hours while the body of Mrs. Wilder lay just 50 feet away. A break in the case came when an officer brought in 2 raincoats that had been found in the hideaway that was used by Palakiko and Majors. Palakiko identified the raincoats as those that they had stolen from the Midkiff estate that sat just above the Wilder estate. He admitted to entering several homes in the area, including the Wilder home. He told investigators that they had been looking for food. During questioning, he was unaware that he was partly responsible for the death of Teresa Wilder. He was taken back to the Wilder home to reenact the events of the previous Thursday night. Meanwhile, at a roadblock, a car was stopped and the driver said that the man in the back seat was a hitchhiker who had asked for a ride. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word again. The officer became suspicious of a bundle at the man's feet and began to ask him questions. Suddenly, the man reached for his hip pocket, and the officer, believing that he was about to pull out a weapon, dragged him from the car. The man broke away for a moment and pulled a bottle from his pocket, pulled the cork, and drank it. The officer slapped the bottle from the man's hands, and he collapsed. The hitchhiker was Majors, and it was found that the bottle he had drank from contained iodine. He was taken to the first aid station, and his stomach was pumped, and then he was put in Queens Hospital under police guard. Majors admitted that he had read the story of Mrs. Wilder's death in the newspapers and confessed to entering the home, overpowering her, and tying her up before they left. The heartbreaking events of the final moments of Teresa Adele Wilder's life left a lasting impression on not only the hearts of those who knew her, but also on the place where she passed. Now, that was it. I didn't get any ghost stories, nothing. But it said that her spirit haunts this area, which is the area where Morgan's Corner is. But this was the second time that this specific source had taken me on a wild goose chase. But, as I said the first time we recorded this, you truly die when the last person says your name. And so, her name will be spoken forever on this podcast. And she was murdered for food that she probably would have given them.
Right.
So I left it in, but her crime horrified Honolulu residents for decades, and some say that they can still hear her screams, and that was about it. But that may be what caused rumors that Morgan's Corner is haunted. There is an urban legend of, it's the urban legend, boyfriend, girlfriend, go sit in a car, They go to leave because there's a news report, whatever. Boyfriend can't get the car started, decides she can stay in the car, he's going to go get help, whatever. Girlfriend hears scratching on the roof of the car, wakes up the next morning, it's the boyfriend. He was hanging from a tree and he was dead. He was murdered. So there's a story of that at this place. Other folks have claimed that they have seen a teenage girl holding her own head, with the story being that she ran away from home and hung herself from a tree near the deadly curve.
When you read that the first time, I'm thinking like she's like holding her head, like with her head down, you know, like maybe you've got a headache or you're sad, so you're like looking down and holding your head. But now as you say it again, I'm like, oh no, her head is like gone.
Yeah.
And she's holding it.
Yeah. Now there aren't that many accidents in this curve, but during the late 40s and the early 1950s, there were over 200 accidents, but only 3 were fatal. So I guess there's that. I gotta wet my whistle again.
My feet are cold.
I don't know, you want some socks or something?
Maybe in a little
I got
bit.
my dirty socks over there. You
I'm good. Appreciate that.
My last one. Is it my last one?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a shorter one. It is the Hawaii State Art Museum. I feel a yawn. In the mid-1800s, steamship travel brought a lot more visitors to Hawaii, and in 1865, there was a public meeting held, and a committee was appointed to study the need for a first-class hotel. Nothing happened for a few years until 1870, when King Kalakaua said he was in favor of the government building a hotel, and finally things started to move along. And it was completed and opened with a formal ball in 1872. Later, it was renamed the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. In 1877, the hotel was closed for repairs, but there were witnesses that reported seeing a ghost wandering around the halls and making an appearance on the verandas. In 1917, the hotel was converted to a YMCA, and then was used by the military in World War I. Due to disrepair and a termite infestation, the original building was torn down in 1926. In 1928, it was rebuilt and became the Armed Services YMCA. Now, the building houses the Hawaii State Art Museum and is listed as the #1 Capital District building. Today, people who work in the building say that they'll hear footsteps in the halls and at night when no one else is around, and others have reported seeing a shadow woman wandering the halls.
And I bet you wearing white.
Probably. Aren't they all?
Right. All right. Now, I had prepared a couple things for you guys tonight. I'm only going to do one because when I read through it the first time, I realized how boring it was as I was going through it. So, we're going to talk about some laws that they have in Hawaii. Some weird, some silly, some not, some understandable. So, on Kauai, it is illegal for buildings to be taller than a palm tree, which I get because that kind of kills the landscape.
Yeah.
When in a state park, you're not allowed to annoy the birds. You also cannot feed them, and this is due to a risk of offensive odors, property damage, or health problems. And we talked about, I was like, you know, what is annoying to birds?
Well, it's like I was saying when we did this before.
Right.
And I don't know if it's London or, let me look it up real quick.
It might be both.
It might be. I mean, it could be both. Is
it
it
reminds
illegal
me of that vine? Look at
to
all
bother
those
the
chickens.
pigeons in London? It is against the law to intentionally kill, injure, or take wild birds unless carried out under a license in the UK. Oh. It is illegal to hunt and eat pigeons in NYC. It is unsafe and illegal.
It's like unhealthy. Like you get a disease.
I think you're also not allowed to, yeah, there are said to be 60 diseases that pigeons carry that can kill you.
Yeah.
What was the other one that I just seen? Because you're not allowed to feed them in NYC either.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to feed them.
That's all right. People too
That's
busy in
foul.
Central Park doing dirty things underneath blankets. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I saw that. There were kids there.
Yeah. Anyway, the next one, billboards were outlawed in the 1920s, which if you think about it, you see pictures of New York, of Hawaii.
Yeah.
There are no billboards.
Yeah.
It is illegal, and I found this one funny because my in-laws are going on a 14-day Hawaiian cruise.
Mm-hmm.
I think next year. It's illegal to have more than one alcoholic drink in front of you at once, nor can you drink on the beaches.
Yeah.
That could be a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm okay with the not having more than one drink in front of me at once.
Yeah.
I'm not going to double fist it.
No, I mean, I've done that before, but
I
don't make it a habit.
Let's elaborate that you've had 2 drinks in front of you, not that you've been double fisted.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. That's where I thought you were going. And I was like,
a drink in each hand.
Got you.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've done that. But I do like to enjoy a nice fruity beverage on the beach.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad.
That is kind of, yeah, it seems kind of, but I'm sure it's because they've probably had a lot of drownings or something.
Well, and litter and...
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times
you're gonna
people
have
will
that
drink
anyway,
and get rowdy.
I mean, and your in-laws would know really well about people littering.
Yeah. That's the one thing, I'm not a litter person. You go to the beach, you leave without a trace. You don't leave anything behind.
Take all your crap that you took with you.
If you took a tent out there, you pack that tent up. Even if you're going right back to the same spot tomorrow, pack that tent up and take it with you.
Yeah.
Anyway, coins are not allowed to be placed in one's ears.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that we all do.
Right.
But this is a sign of being a drug dealer. The law dates back to 1900, when Hawaii became part of the U.S. The U.S. government ordered that all Hawaiian coins be destroyed. Natives hid them in their ears to preserve their currency.
Yeah.
So, they were smuggling it. And so now, apparently, you put a coin in your ear and you a drug dealer. I ain't never seen that around here.
No.
Hawaii residents can actually... So, I don't know that this is true now. I can see where it could possibly have been a thing back then. I wasn't able to find anything about it being now.
Mm-hmm.
But this says Hawaii residents can actually be fined for not owning a boat.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe at some point it was something to do with having an exit plan in the event of an emergency.
Yeah.
A volcano.
Yeah.
As of 2014, so 10 years ago, it became legal for police officers to have sex with prostitutes during an investigation.
Yeah. I still feel like somebody created that law for a reason.
Right. I mean, but like I said, you're investigating something that prostitutes are involved in and you're going undercover. If you turn down their services, they're going to know something's up.
Yeah. But wrap it up, my dude.
Please.
Wrap it up.
Please. A law dating back to 1418 makes it illegal to sink the islands. How one would go about sinking a whole island, I don't know.
I don't know, but humans do be doing the most.
Right. It's not legal to ride in the back seat of a car without a seatbelt, but if all the seats in the car are occupied, you are allowed to ride in the bed of a truck with no safety measures.
I don't like that.
Girl, I grew up riding in the back of a truck.
Yeah, but it's so dangerous.
It is.
I really hate it when people put their dogs back there. I hate it.
It is. It is illegal to use imitation milk in a milkshake without warning.
Yeah. Which I do, now that I've reflected on that, I do understand it because, like, some people have, like, nut allergies or soy allergies or, you know, more people are allergic to, like, almonds and stuff than not. So, yeah.
It is unlawful for a shooting gallery, or like here in the South, we call them a firing range or a gun range.
Yeah.
To offer liquor as a prize.
Wait a minute. I bet a shooting gallery is like, I bet that's like a carnival game.
No, it specifically shows.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's ones that are like shooting galleries and they've got those little like cap guns.
In Hawaii's Orikama tribe, men are allowed to eat or are not allowed to eat their second wife.
Yeah. They just get sick of the first one and they're just like, fire up the grill.
Right.
Put on the stock pot.
It is against the law to display captive dolphins and whales. However, there is a sea life park in Hawaii, but so I'm not sure how they got around that. But like you said, unless it's like a, what do you call it? Like a rescue type. What are they called?
What?
The sea parks.
Like
a rehabilitation type place.
Not like SeaWorld or whatever, but
unethical places.
Yeah.
Breaking off mineral deposits and speleothems from a cave is unlawful. Also, you're not allowed to take lava rocks from a state park. This one had me kind of giggling because it's kind of funny. By law, twins are not permitted to work for the same company. And then Brittany was telling a story about how a girl had asked off for work and then they told her she couldn't have it. And then she sent her twin to work for her instead.
And they found out about it.
And they fired her.
Yeah.
It's kind of genius, though.
It is, but, I mean, they were right. It is unprofessional.
Oh, for sure.
But she also asked for, like, 2 weeks off or something and then was shocked that they wouldn't give it to her.
Right. Dynamite, poison, and electric currents are not to be used while fishing. I still can't believe you've never heard of dynamite fishing.
I haven't.
I don't think it's legal in a lot of places, but it used to be illegal for you to leave home without knowing where you were going. So like a Sunday joyride, don't be doing it. And then nope, this isn't the last one. If you are in possession of a shark fin, you risk going to jail for an entire year.
I can understand that, though.
Yeah. Apparently,
I say that as someone who has a tiny shark in a jar.
Apparently, it is illegal to appear in public wearing only swimming trunks.
Which we did discuss that. I don't think it's like on the beach or whatever. I think it's like at restaurants town and stuff. Yeah.
But adding to that, a statute forbids people in bathing suits from appearing uncovered in the streets of Waikiki.
Yeah. It's probably just for an ounce of decorum.
Right. Having and setting off aerial fireworks, unless you have a permit, is illegal. I didn't read that one last time, but I got to thinking about it. Like, we don't buy permits to shoot fireworks on the 4th of July.
No,
I
but
get it though.
like if you're in city limits, you're not supposed to shoot them
At all?
At all, and you're not supposed to shoot them outside of the given time frames for like.
They don't enforce it though.
No, but you're not supposed to.
Well, I see where they might enforce it like outside of like 4th of July time frame,
Yeah,
or like
if it's New Year's,
time frame.
yeah. Like you have a certain window, and if you're shooting fireworks outside of that, they're supposed to fine you.
You're right, but the city limits portion, I don't think they enforce that because everybody be shooting them off.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, that neighborhood that my sister lives in, that's city limits, and people shoot them like crazy. On
Oh
4th of
yeah.
July.
Oh yeah.
It is unlawful to hoard more than 15 dogs and cats in a home.
Which we looked up in Tennessee, it's 10.
That's a lot.
Like, but
Per
it's per
quarter
quarter acre. Yeah, it's like 1 dog per quarter acre.
That's a lot though. 15
so
dogs.
I could
cats?
on my lot. I could have 4 dogs if I wanted.
That's still.
But who's enforcing that?
Because
you know it ain't animal control.
Well, I'm sure if there's a complaint. What about chickens though? You got these people that have quote unquote show chickens.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
There's got to be some type of.
Well, see, like for some states, it's just dogs. And then other states, it's just animals in general.
Yeah.
And then, like, I know I think this is like a county thing, but some, like, if you're in city limits, you cannot have chickens and stuff because it's considered agricultural and you're not zoned for agriculture. It's all kind of weird, but.
Well,
I think that Waffle House is working on me. I'm going to have to take a break after this.
Surfers must express themselves using a vocabulary of no more than 100 words. So this is why they talk the way that they do, which makes sense. Well, like, I'm sure they know more than 100 words, but like, I mean, you learn a bunch of words as a kid. Who knows whether or not you're going to be a surfer? It just boggles my mind every time I think about it. No child can be given the name Charles.
Yeah, I
searched it up and I couldn't figure out why. All girls under the age of 12 must own a grass skirt and take Hawaiian dancing lessons, which I get as a cultural situation.
Yeah.
And then the last one, and I laughed because back then, if we lived in Hawaii, my kids will be in trouble. Especially the little one.
Yeah.
In the past, there was a law that required children to obey all lawful and moral commands of their parents. Bro, my son would be a hardened criminal in the juvenile system. Hardened criminal. He don't listen to shit. He's a hellion. Okay, you got the nonprofit for this week?
I do. And I've chosen the Hawaii Rise Foundation. And the Hawaii Rise Foundation's mission is to create opportunities for vulnerable or moderate and low income families, children, and elderly by providing educational services, programs, and support. Roughly half of all households in Hawaii are living lives conducive to poor health because of financial constraints. Over 190,000 Hawaiians are living below the poverty level last year. Were living below the poverty level in 2018, before the pandemic. Unfortunately, the pandemic and its economic repercussions have hit vulnerable populations the hardest. And I have included a link to be able to donate directly. And I have included, they have some scholarship opportunities. So I've included the link tree for that.
That's a good one.
It is pretty good.
Because it'd be expensive to live in Hawaii.
It really does. It really is. It really is expensive.
But as always, thank y'all for coming to another week.
Yeah.
We appreciate you more than you know.
Yep.
As of when we looked at dinner, we were like 20 downloads shy of 3,600.
Yeah.
Y'all killing it, bro. We hope that, was it 3,600?
Yeah, it was almost 3,600.
I can't even remember. Anyway, we hope you guys stick around for next week and make sure that you're following us on all of our socials like Facebook,
Instagram,
TikTok,
Twitter.
Oh, she not doing it today.
No.
Email us at wanderersofweird@
gmail.com.
Yep. And we'll see you later. Okay, bye.
Bye.